The stars stretched endlessly above the human colonies scattered across the galaxy. They glimmered cold and indifferent, as if mocking the fragile civilizations beneath them. For centuries, humanity had watched silently from Earth, its great cities hidden behind clouds and oceans, its fleets quiet in orbit, letting other empires believe humans were small, weak, and insignificant. The galaxy thought it could ignore Earth, and for a long time, that belief had been true. But peace is fragile, and silence can be deadly. The first reports came in as fragments, garbled transmissions from desperate allies. The Draylons, a proud warrior species, had fought valiantly, but their fleets were overwhelmed. The Shara Collective, known for their wisdom and advanced technologies, had been shattered within hours. Entire worlds had been reduced to burning shells. Human communication relays intercepted only cries of panic, leaders begging for mercy, and the faint echoes of children screaming. Then nothing. Silence. Captain Rhea Koval of the Earth Defense Fleet stood on the command deck of the Valiant Dawn, staring at the flickering holographic map. Red dots blinked violently across the galaxy, lost worlds, destroyed colonies, lives extinguished. Each marker was a warning, a wound, a promise that justice would come. She felt the weight of every life lost as if it were on her shoulders alone. Earth cannot watch this happen again, she whispered, her voice almost drowned by the hum of the ship's engines. We will not be silent. The humans had been underestimated for centuries. Other species called them backward, primitive, even weak. But Earth had survived calamities that wiped out entire species. They had secrets, weapons, and technology that no one outside their homeworld could imagine. Ships had been built in secret, designed for one purpose, survival, and if necessary, revenge. Admiral Tycho, a veteran of countless human conflicts, came to her side. His face was stern, but his eyes burned with the same resolve. The fleet is ready, he said. Every Leviathan-class battleship, every stealth destroyer, every fast attack cruiser, all waiting. And for the first time, they will not defend quietly. They will strike. Rhea clenched her fists. The memory of the intercepted transmissions haunted her. She could still hear the Shara leader's voice begging, the Draylon children screaming, the fiery explosions that silenced entire systems. Humanity had endured countless threats before, but this was personal. Her people would not forgive. They would not forget. Orders were sent at light speed across the colonies. Shipyards across Earth and its territories came alive with energy, the hum of engines and machinery filling the air. The Leviathan-class warships, massive and bristling with weapons, slowly rose from their dry docks, their hulls gleaming under Earth's twin sun reflections. Fast attack cruisers lined up in formation, engines glowing with a fierce orange light ready to move faster than any enemy could anticipate. Hidden in the shadows, the secret project, the Eclipse-class stealth destroyers, prepared to slip into enemy lines like ghosts of death. Unseen but unstoppable. Somewhere in the void near the Shara homeworld, the alien coalition celebrated their conquest. Their leaders laughed, their arrogance thick as the destruction they had caused. Earth will do nothing, one of them sneered, confident in their supremacy. They were wrong. A message, calm, precise, and terrifying, was broadcast across the galaxy. They destroyed our allies. So Earth unleashed its deadliest warships. The words traveled faster than any missile, cutting through space like a warning. And in the heart of the fleet, Captain Rhea Koval allowed herself a grim smile. The humans were coming. Their allies might be gone, but the galaxy had yet to see the true power of Earth. And soon, every empire that had underestimated them would pay the price. Humanity had awoken, and the stars themselves would tremble at what was coming. The void of space was silent, but it felt alive with tension. The Earth fleet moved like a shadow across the galaxy, unseen and unstoppable. Captain Rhea Koval stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, her eyes fixed on the shimmering points of light that marked enemy fleets. Every red blip was a target. Every target was a promise of justice for the worlds they had destroyed. For decades, humanity had waited, trained, and prepared. Now every secret weapon, every warship, every pilot was ready. The first strike would not be subtle. It would be a statement. A warning. The humans were here and they would not forgive. Status report, Rhea commanded, her voice steady but filled with fire. Lieutenant Mara, young but fearless, spoke quickly. Stealth destroyers are in position. Fast attack cruisers are ready. Leviathans are holding formation. All systems green, Captain. Rhea nodded. The strategy was simple but deadly. The Eclipse-class stealth ships would infiltrate enemy lines, striking from shadows where no sensors could detect them. Fast cruisers would follow, overwhelming the enemy with speed and firepower. The Leviathans would hit last, bringing devastation to any survivor. The first target was a Shara system recently conquered, its cities still smoldering from alien bombardment. Humans did not hesitate. They remembered the screams. They remembered the lives stolen. Every pilot, every crew member felt the weight of vengeance as they engaged their engines. The battle began with silence. No warning, no negotiation. The stealth destroyers appeared in the midst of the enemy fleet like phantoms. They struck with energy torpedoes that tore through shields and hulls alike. Alien captains had no time to react. Their weapons were useless, their fleets crumbling before the humans even revealed themselves. Rhea watched from the bridge as the holographic map turned red. Enemy ships exploded, leaving trails of fire and debris. Her heart ached at the sight, but it was controlled, focused. Every life lost had been innocent once. Every death in the enemy ranks now was justice. Enemy capital ship destroyed, Mara reported. Secondary fleets engaging. The fast attack cruisers surged forward, moving like lightning. Their speed made them impossible to target. Their plasma cannons precise and deadly. Rhea felt a surge of pride, not in destruction, but in the skill and courage of her people. These were humans who had been underestimated for centuries, proving their strength in the cold void of space. Yet the battle was not without risk. One Leviathan came under heavy fire, its shields flickering dangerously. Rhea clenched her hands, her mind racing. "Divert auxiliary power to forward shields," she commanded. "Hold the line." The crew obeyed instantly, every hand and mind synchronized. Slowly the Leviathan stabilized, its energy weapons turning the tide. The humans were relentless, calculated, and unyielding. Hours passed like minutes. By the time the first enemy fleets were destroyed, the human forces had proven something to the galaxy. Earth was not weak. Earth was deadly. Their vengeance had begun, and the price of underestimating humanity would be paid in fire. When the battle ended, silence returned to space. The once proud alien fleets were shattered, their survivors fleeing in panic. The human ships held formation, engines humming with quiet power. Rhea looked out at the remains of the battlefield. The stars reflected off debris, fragments of destroyed ships drifting like fallen warriors. "Victory," she said softly, almost to herself. But it was more than a victory. It was a statement. Earth had awoken, and the galaxy would never forget it. For the first time, humanity felt the weight of its own power, and the sorrow of the friends they had lost. Captain Rhea Koval knew this was only the beginning. The war had begun, and it would not end until justice was served. And somewhere, deep in the remnants of the enemy lines, survivors whispered in fear of a name they had once mocked: Earth. The victory felt sweet, but it was short-lived. Humanity's first strike had sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Reports came from intercepted communications. The alien coalition was regrouping, furious and desperate. They had underestimated Earth, and now they hungered for revenge. Captain Rhea Koval stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, her eyes scanning the incoming reports. Red blips marked enemy fleets converging faster than expected. This was no longer a small retaliation. This was a full-scale counterattack. The humans had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. "Enemy forces approaching," Lieutenant Mara said, her voice steady but tense. "They're faster than we predicted. Multiple capital ships plus heavy escorts." Rhea clenched her fists, her jaw tight. "Then we show them why humans are not to be underestimated. Prepare the fleet. This is where we hold the line." For the first time, fear brushed against the edges of their confidence, not for themselves, but for the colonies and systems they defended. Earth had allies, yes, but the humans knew too well how quickly hope could vanish in the void. Every life mattered. Every ship mattered. The fleet moved into formation. Leviathans took the front lines, bristling with weapons and energy shields that pulsed like hearts of fire. Fast attack cruisers flanked them, ready to strike and evade in perfect synchronization. Stealth destroyers slipped silently through the shadows, ready to pierce the enemy's defenses at the perfect moment. The first shots rang out like thunder in space. Alien capital ships unleashed massive energy beams, their firepower unlike anything the humans had faced before. The void glowed red with explosions and plasma trails. Rhea gritted her teeth, her hands steady on the command console, directing shields, weapons, and fleet maneuvers. One Leviathan took a direct hit, sparks flying across its hull. Alarms blared. The crew moved with practiced precision, fighting to keep their ship alive. "Hull breach in Sector 4, shouted an officer. "Diverting power." Rhea's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold. Humanity does not break. Humanity does not flee." In the midst of the battle, the stealth destroyers struck like ghosts. They slipped behind enemy lines, unleashing torpedoes that tore apart alien capital ships from within. The enemy had no idea where the attacks came from. Confusion spread among their fleets. Even as the humans fought, Rhea could see the cost. Ships were lost, brave pilots and crews sacrificed themselves to buy time for others. The pain of every loss weighed heavily on her heart. Yet, through the fear and grief, humanity's spirit shone brighter than ever. They fought not just to survive, but to honor their fallen friends, to avenge the worlds that had been destroyed. Hours stretched into an eternity. The battle pushed both sides to their limits. Yet the humans held, adapting to every tactic, countering every strike. Their strategy was not just skill, it was determination, courage, and unyielding resolve. Finally, the tide turned. Alien capital ships began to falter under the coordinated assault. The humans' combined firepower, speed, and cunning overwhelmed the attackers. Explosions lit the void, leaving trails of destruction. Survivors of the enemy fleets fled, retreating into uncharted space, afraid to face the wrath of Earth again. Rhea allowed herself a moment to breathe, but her eyes were heavy with sorrow. Victory had come at a cost. Ships were lost, lives sacrificed, but the humans had proven something undeniable. Earth would not be conquered. Earth would not bow. "Report," Rhea said softly. "Enemy forces defeated." "For now," Mara replied. Her voice carried both relief and a lingering tension. "But they will return." "They always do," Rhea nodded. She looked out at the stars, the battlefield quiet but scarred. Humanity had fought and humanity had won, but this was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching. The enemies had seen Earth's power, and now they would fear it. Somewhere far across the void, a leader of the alien coalition trembled, realizing too late that the humans they had mocked were unlike any foe they had faced. And Captain Rhea Koval silently vowed, Earth's vengeance had only begun. The human fleet drifted through the blackness of space, but there was no rest. Every officer, every crew member, every pilot felt the weight of the galaxy's eyes upon them. The first battles had proven Earth's strength, but they also revealed a dangerous truth. The enemy would regroup, learn, and strike back harder. Humanity could not wait for them to come. They had to act first and act decisively. Captain Rhea Koval stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, her gaze fixed on the star map. Red markers showed enemy systems still under occupation, their citizens enslaved, their worlds scarred. Her hands rested lightly on the console, but her mind was ablaze with plans. Every strike from Earth would carry the weight of vengeance and the hope of liberation. "Admiral Tycho," she said, her voice steady but burning with determination. "We can't just react. We have to deliver a counteroffensive that they'll never forget. Target the enemy's core supply systems. Hit their fleets before they can regroup." Tycho nodded, his face lined with experience and worry. "It's risky, Captain. These systems are heavily defended. We will face traps, ambushes, and overwhelming firepower." Rhea's eyes hardened. "Risk is the price of justice. Every moment we wait, more worlds are destroyed. Humanity doesn't wait. Humanity strikes." Orders spread like wildfire across the fleet. Every ship, from the smallest scout vessel to the massive Leviathan-class battleships, moved into precise formations. Stealth destroyers slipped silently through enemy patrols, ready to sabotage key stations. Fast attack cruisers streaked like meteors, their engines glowing bright against the dark void, ready to strike and disappear in a heartbeat. The humans had saved their most terrifying weapon for this moment. Hidden deep within the fleet were the Oblivion-class dreadnoughts, colossal ships bristling with weapons that could obliterate entire planetary defenses. No enemy could withstand them if they were used wisely. As the fleet approached the first target, a heavily fortified enemy supply hub, Rhea felt a familiar mix of fear and resolve. She thought of the innocent lives lost, of the cries of allies begging for help that humanity had been too late to answer. Every action now carried their weight. Every strike was justice. The battle began silently, Stealth destroyers struck first, infiltrating the enemy hub and planting charges that would tear apart its energy cores. Explosions rippled across the enemy's defenses and alarms blared in panic. The fast attack cruisers followed, darting through fire, dodging energy beams and striking with unmatched precision. The Leviathans moved in next, their weapons blazing. Alien shields faltered under the relentless assault. Ships that had once thought themselves invincible were torn apart, leaving nothing but twisted metal drifting through the void. Rhea's eyes never left the displays. She saw every ship, every crew, every strike. She felt the loss of each human soldier, yet also their courage. Humanity fought not for glory, but for survival, for honor, and for the memory of the worlds that had fallen. Finally, the Oblivion-class dreadnoughts revealed themselves, their immense power focused on the remaining enemy defenses. Entire orbital fortresses shattered under their fire. Planets that had been occupied were liberated in hours. Humanity's vengeance was swift, precise, and terrifying. The enemy, battered and demoralized, began retreating in all directions. Survivors fled, whispering fearfully of the humans who had risen from the shadows to strike with such precision and fury. They had learned a terrible truth. Earth did not forget, and Earth did not forgive. Rhea Koval allowed herself a moment to breathe, but her gaze remained sharp. The counteroffensive had succeeded, but the war was far from over. Humanity had delivered a message to the galaxy, and it was clear and simple. Earth was awake, and it would protect its own at any cost. And somewhere, deep in the enemy ranks, fear had taken root. They had underestimated humans for too long. Now the galaxy would see the deadliest power it had ever faced. Captain Rhea Koval clenched her fists, feeling the fire of vengeance and hope burning together. Humanity would fight, and humanity would win. They had already begun to change the course of history. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated. The first strikes had shattered enemy fleets and liberated occupied worlds, but the coalition that had attacked humanity's allies was far from defeated. Furious and humiliated, they regrouped in the dark reaches of space, their fleets swelling with reinforcements and new weapons designed to crush Earth once and for all. Captain Rhea Koval stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, her eyes sharp as she scanned incoming signals. Intelligence reports were grim. Entire squadrons of alien dreadnoughts, faster and deadlier than anything humanity had encountered, were moving toward the colonies. The coalition had learned, adapted, and they sought vengeance. "We expected this," Admiral Tycho said, voice low but steady. "They are angry, yes. But anger does not mean they are unbeatable." Rhea clenched her fists, her jaw tight. "No, Tycho, it means they are desperate. And desperate enemies are dangerous, but we are humans. We never back down." The fleet moved into defensive formation, surrounding the colonies that had been spared the worst of the earlier attacks. Leviathans formed the core, shields glowing like hearts of fire. Fast attack cruisers zipped along the perimeter, ready to intercept any ambush. Stealth destroyers slipped silently through the shadows, their sensors alert to any hidden threats. The first wave struck like a storm. Alien capital ships emerged from hidden jumps, energy weapons flaring, shields blazing. The void trembled with explosions as humanity's fleet responded. The humans fought with coordination and courage that surprised even themselves. Every pilot, every crew member, every engineer knew what was at stake. Not just their lives, but the lives of billions across the galaxy. Rhea watched as one of the colonies came under direct fire. Cities burned. Clouds of smoke and dust spiraled into the atmosphere. Civilians screamed over emergency channels, their voices trembling with fear. Her heart ached. Every life mattered. Every innocent deserved protection. "Divert all firepower to intercept the capital ships," she shouted. "Hold the line at any cost." The battle raged for hours. Human ships dodged and countered, their tactics brilliant, almost uncanny. The stealth destroyers struck from behind enemy lines, crippling ships before they could retaliate. Leviathans unleashed torrents of plasma and energy beams, tearing enemy hulls apart. Fast attack cruisers darted in and out like fiery shadows, striking precise blows that left enemies reeling. Even as victory seemed possible, the enemy unleashed a new weapon, a massive energy cannon capable of vaporizing entire fleets in seconds. One Leviathan took a direct hit, shields flaring and cracking. Alarms screamed. Crew members fought desperately to stabilize systems. Rhea's voice rang out, calm but commanding. "We are humanity. We do not break. Divert auxiliary power to all shields. Fire everything you have. The humans fought with a mixture of fear, courage, and determination. They adapted, improvised, and struck with unmatched precision. The alien cannon was destroyed by coordinated attacks from fast cruisers and stealth destroyers, turning a moment of desperation into a surge of hope. Finally, after hours of relentless combat, the enemy began to retreat. Their fleets shattered, their weapons destroyed, their morale broken. Humanity had survived, and for the first time the coalition realized that Earth was not just a world. It was a force unlike any other. Rhea slumped slightly, exhaustion heavy in her bones, but pride warmed her heart. The cost had been high, ships lost, brave lives sacrificed, but humanity had endured. They had faced vengeance and had not faltered. Somewhere in the fleeing enemy ranks, fear spread like wildfire. The humans had not only defended, they had fought back harder than any enemy had expected. The galaxy had seen the true strength of Earth. Rhea looked at her fleet, battered but alive, and whispered, "We fight for those who cannot. We fight for those we lost, and we fight for every life the galaxy thought was insignificant. We are humanity, and we will not be defeated." The galaxy trembled at the name of Earth. Humanity had proven that it could fight with unmatched precision, cunning, and courage. But Captain Rhea Kaval knew the battle was far from over. The enemy was wounded, yes, but desperate enemies were always the most dangerous. Humanity had survived the storm so far, but the ultimate test was yet to come. Rhea stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, staring at the vast expanse of stars. Each red blip on the map represented an enemy system, still holding captive worlds. Each white blip represented a liberated world, free because of human sacrifice and courage. Her heart swelled with pride for her fleet, yet it also ached for those who had been lost. The brave pilots, the engineers, the citizens who had given everything for Earth's vengeance. "We cannot wait for them to strike again," she said, her voice steady but filled with fire. "We must take the fight to them, hit their core fleets, destroy their command ships, and free the galaxy from their terror." Admiral Tycho, standing beside her, nodded slowly. "It will be dangerous. We are taking the fight to the heart of their territory. Entire fleets, weapons more advanced than anything we've faced. But I have no doubt we can do this." Rhea's eyes hardened. "We will do this. Humanity does not wait for the storm. Humanity becomes the storm." The fleet moved swiftly, faster than enemy reconnaissance could detect. Stealth destroyers infiltrated enemy space, bypassing sensor arrays and defenses with uncanny precision. Fast attack cruisers streaked past, ready to strike before the enemy could react. And the Leviathans, massive and unstoppable, formed the core, their shields glowing like molten steel, ready to bring destruction to any fleet foolish enough to oppose them. The first contact was brutal. Enemy fleets, anticipating a strike, unleashed waves of energy fire. The void erupted with explosions, fire lighting up the darkness of space. One Leviathan took a direct hit, its shields flaring, alarms screaming across the ship. Crew members fought desperately, repairing damage even as they returned fire with lethal accuracy. Rhea barked orders with precision, every command measured, every movement critical. The stealth destroyers struck from hidden angles, sabotaging command ships. Fast attack cruisers darted like fiery streaks, crippling enemy defenses, and the Leviathans fired relentlessly, tearing apart alien capital ships with coordinated precision. Hours passed like minutes. The battle raged across multiple systems, leaving devastation in its wake. The enemy's morale cracked, their fleets scattered, and whispers of fear spread among their leaders. They had underestimated Earth before, but this was unlike anything they had imagined. In the midst of the chaos, Rhea received a report that made her chest tighten. A nearby human colony was under siege, civilians trapped under alien fire. She clenched her fists, her jaw tight. "We protect the innocent first. Divert reinforcements. Fast cruisers, get them out." Even as her fleet struck fear into the heart of the enemy, humanity never forgot its core values. Every life mattered, every decision carried weight. And in that balance of destruction and protection, the humans proved why they were feared across the stars. Finally, the tide turned decisively. Enemy command ships exploded under coordinated fire, their fleets shattered, and the galaxy began to see a new truth. Earth was not just a world. Earth was a force of nature, a storm that could not be stopped, only survived by the wise and lucky. Rhea allowed herself a brief moment to breathe, her heart still pounding with adrenaline. The fleet had achieved a decisive victory. Worlds were free, enemies were in retreat, and humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever. She gazed at the stars, thinking of the allies lost, the civilizations destroyed, and the lives saved. "We are not done," she whispered. "But the galaxy now knows. Earth will not forgive, Earth will not forget, and Earth will never be defeated." The humans had turned the tide, and the galaxy for the first time trembled before them. The galaxy had learned a truth it could never unlearn. Earth was awake. Humanity had risen from centuries of observation and restraint to become a force of unmatched power, courage, and determination. Captain Rhea Koval stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, her eyes scanning the stars where enemy fleets still lingered, trembling, hesitant, uncertain. This was the moment humanity had prepared for. Every pilot, every crew member, every engineer knew it was their duty to finish what had begun. They fought not for glory, but for the lives of their allies, for the worlds that had been lost, and for the unbroken spirit of humanity itself. Admiral Tycho joined her at the command console, voice calm but filled with conviction. "Rhea, the enemy's command fleet is concentrated near the Corral system. If we strike there, we end their power forever." Rhea nodded. "Then we strike. No hesitation, no mercy. For every world they destroyed, for every life they took, they will pay." The fleet moved with flawless precision. Leviathans formed the spearhead, their shields glowing bright, weapons charged to annihilate. Fast attack cruisers flanked them, weaving through space with uncanny speed, ready to exploit any weakness. Stealth destroyers, silent as shadows, infiltrated the enemy fleet, preparing to strike with surgical precision. And hidden deep among them, the Oblivion-class dreadnoughts waited, the ultimate instruments of humanity's power. The first shots lit the void. Energy beams tore through enemy shields, torpedoes detonated inside capital ships, and the galaxy seemed to shake under the weight of the battle. Alien commanders, once arrogant and unchallenged, panicked as their fleets were decimated. Their weapons, their numbers, their technology, all were powerless against the determination and coordination of the humans. Rhea felt the loss of every ship, every pilot, every life they had sacrificed along the way. Her heart ached for the innocence of the Shara worlds, the Draylon children, the countless lives stolen by the Coalition. And yet, through the grief, there burned an unbreakable fire, the fire of vengeance, justice, and hope. Hours passed in a blur of explosions and plasma fire. The enemy attempted to regroup, but humanity's strategy was flawless. The stealth destroyers struck unseen, crippling command ships. Leviathans unleashed torrents of energy that tore through the remaining capital ships. Fast attack cruisers darted through debris, striking vital systems with pinpoint accuracy. Finally, the enemy command fleet exploded in a brilliant flare, visible even from a distance. Their remaining forces fled, scattered and demoralized, abandoning their occupied worlds and surrendering systems they had held for centuries. Humanity had won, not just a battle but the war itself. The silence after the storm was almost sacred. Stars reflected off drifting debris, remnants of the alien fleets floating like shattered memories. Captain Rhea Koval stood on the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the console. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, to feel the magnitude of what had been accomplished. "We did it," she whispered, her voice heavy with emotion. "We protected the innocent. We avenged the fallen. We showed the galaxy the strength of Earth." Admiral Tycho placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not just strength, Rhea. Humanity showed courage, resilience, and honor. That is what makes us unstoppable." Rhea looked out at the stars, thinking of the allies they had lost and the ones they had saved. She smiled faintly through the sorrow. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, but more importantly, it had learned to respect it. Humans had fought not for domination but for justice, and in that, they were stronger than any weapon. Somewhere across the void, the fleeing enemy fleets whispered fearfully of the humans who had risen from shadows to become legends. Earth had unleashed its deadliest warships, yes, but more than that, humanity had unleashed its indomitable spirit. Captain Rhea Koval stood tall, her gaze unwavering. The battle was over, but the story of humanity was just beginning. And as the stars shone over the silent battlefield, one truth echoed across the galaxy. Earth fights, Earth survives, and Earth will never be defeated. Humanity had awakened, and the universe would never forget